What's going on, guys? It's Asal, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Scar H battle rifle from the Enforcer class in Battlefield Hardline. Now, this has very quickly become my favorite weapon to use in the Enforcer class just because it does so much damage and you can take out guys so quickly. Now, you can get it only on the cop side, and that costs $26,400 initially to unlock. You don't need to have any requirements. All you need is the cash, so you can get this weapon very early on, and if you do want to get it on the criminal side, you can get it for 50 grand given that you have unlocked the weapon license. Now, initially I was not really enjoying the Scar H all that much. I was using it as a crutch to unlock the Bald Eagle sidearm from one of my previous videos, and I was just using the Scar H only to get the required kills just because it was the only real battle rifle I had with that kit, and I hadn't really tried out any of the other ones, but I was using it just to unlock the Bald Eagle, and I was not enjoying it. I was finding it really hard to control, and I think partially that was because I was not used to the recoil patterns in Battlefield Hardline, because in general the vertical recoil in Battlefield Hardline is a little bit higher than that of previous Battlefield games, and in general, or not in general, but the Scar H specifically has a very high vertical recoil, so those two combined together made for a very unpleasant experience initially for me, but over time I really started to enjoy the Scar H, and right now I will say that it is my favorite battle rifle to use with the Enforcer class. So let's take a look at the stats of this weapon. This weapon does huge damage at 43 maximum and 24 minimum. So what this means is in one shot at point blank range, you're going to get him below 60% health, which is just insane. Now, this is much higher than the other assault rifles, or not other assault rifles, but other popular weapons in the game like the M16 and the M416 only do 28 damage maximum. So 43 to 28, that's a pretty big difference. Now, the Scar H does have a lower fire rate, coming in at 625 rounds per minute, but in my opinion, this increased damage more than makes up for that lower fire rate. Now, the magazine is a little on the smaller side, coming in at 21 rounds, and you can't actually get extended mags for the Scar H, which is a little upsetting, but I do think if you did have extended mags for the Scar H, then it might be a little too much on the strong side. Now, the reload time of the Scar H, it's also very low, 1.9 seconds. Now, this is faster than the ACWR, the M416, and the M16A3, to name some of the popular weapons from the operator class. And the long reload is a little on the long side at 2.4 seconds, though comparatively it's really not that bad. Now, the bullet velocity, kind of a sad stat about this weapon, comes in at only 410 meters per second. Now, it's not the end of the world, but it does mean that over range we do need to lead our shots quite a bit, and also a suppressed weapon with this thing really isn't going to be an option with a bullet velocity that is already on the low side. Now, recoil patterns on this weapon, horizontally we don't have much to worry about, it's pretty manageable, but the vertical recoil on this weapon is definitely on the high side, making this weapon just climb like no other. The first shot recoil is a little on the low side, but in general, the vertical recoil on this weapon is just too much to handle, really. If you hold down the trigger, it is so hard to sustain your fire in a controllable pattern. It's really not that easy at all. So our goal when selecting attachments for the Scar H is going to be to negate as much vertical recoil as we possibly can. So how are we going to go about achieving this? Well, our goal, get the vertical recoil down. Pretty straightforward. Now, what attachments do we want for that? So the barrel attachments, I chose the compensator. Now, if you played BF4, you'll know that the compensator reduced the horizontal recoil, but for whatever reason in Battlefield Hardline, the compensator actually reduces the vertical recoil. They switched around for some reason. So I went with the compensator because that reduces our vertical recoil. So that's one thing that we can do to reduce the vertical recoil. The second thing I did was I chose the angled grip for this weapon because you need to tap fire a lot with this weapon. Now, I said the first shot recoil isn't really that high in comparison to a lot of other weapons, but first shot recoil is really important to have it as low as possible when we are tap firing, because the vertical recoil is high in general. We're going to need to tap fire, so we want to get that first shot recoil as low as we possibly can. So compensator and the angle grip, those two together make this weapon a lot more manageable, though you still do need to tap fire quite a lot unless they're right in front of you. They definitely do help us achieve our goal. And for the accessory slot, you can either choose the laser or the stock. What the stock does essentially is that as you are shooting, your spread increase is a little bit lower, making your shots a little more accurate. And I personally prefer to use the stock over the laser sight just because the laser sight, it improves your hip fire accuracy, and I'm not really one to hip fire very much with a weapon, especially a gun like this that has such a low rate of fire. So overall, tap fire is an absolute must with this weapon. You need to tap fire if you're going to want to succeed with the Scar H. And yes, this weapon is probably one of my favorites to use with the Enforcer class. Probably my favorite battle rifle, and maybe one of my favorite guns in Hardline thus far. Given I haven't used a lot of the weapons extensively, but the Scar H definitely has a special place for me. Now, this weapon is not going to be for everyone, just because I'll say the ease of use isn't very high, just because of the recoil and the need to control this weapon. But once you put the time in and get used to this weapon, I think that you guys will really be enjoying this weapon. Now, if you want to see a weapon reviewed on this channel, leave a comment down below. I'd love to do it for you guys. So if you've enjoyed this, be sure to leave a rating. I always appreciate that. And with that, guys, this has been Asal, and I will see you guys next time.